kick off, and I think others will join us as we go along. Welcome again to the first SAPEX Small Business Hub webinar for 2022. We have kind of renamed our initiative this year and are wanting to call it a Small Business Hub that's aligned to SAPEX. And the reason for that is we want to be a concentrated and dedicated source of information for small business owners and organizations who are wanting to support this space through their CSD or CSI initiatives. And so just a reminder for those of you who perhaps have not been on one of these calls before, is that the SAPEX Small Business Hub initiative is twofold. One, to assist small business owners with their supply chain and operations needs in terms of education and information and access to clever people in the supply chain space who are able to offer technical assistance with areas such as warehousing, inventory, their operations, and perhaps areas that they would not have thought that they need assistance with. So we launched this initiative last year and it's going well, and we've had a lot of people interact with us through our webinars. And just to let you know that on the SAPEX website is a link to all of the webinars that we've held in last year, which was a series of small training information webinars on areas, as I mentioned earlier, planning, inventory, warehousing. So please feel free, if you're a small business owner, to go onto our website and view those excellent webinars with very relevant and topical content. We encourage small businesses to consider joining the association. There is a membership fee, but in that it includes all the benefits of individual membership, as well as opportunities to expose your small business through the very large SAPEX database. And we do that in a variety of ways. So I'll put my email address in the chat, and you're welcome to reach out to me and get some more information on that. And I will also send to all of the attendees our updated membership brochure. There's also an opportunity for organizations who are wanting to support small businesses through their supplier development programs or their CSI programs by supporting, say, 10 members, supporting 10 of their suppliers, for example, to become members of SAPEX so they can also learn. So that's really it in a nutshell. I'm not going to take up more of your time on that, but was just a reminder and a refresh on why SAPEX has started the Small Business Hub initiative. I'm going to hand over to Lorato, who is going to be hosting the event. And I'd like to just, on behalf of SAPEX, formally thank her and Shanti for their time and continued support in this initiative. Thanks, Lorato, for hosting today.
Thank you, Claire, for that wonderful introduction. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited that we are here for our first webinar for the Hub. And I'm going to be introducing our speaker, Shanti Wilson. Shanti Wilson is a visionary who believes in creating clarity in a VUCA world, and she is the chair of this SAPEX Small Business Hub. So she was in corporate for 21 years, and she was doing operations and supply chain management, and decided, you know what, this is not it for her. She is going to follow her passion and focus on unlocking the human potential. And we're so lucky to have her here because she is a business coach who works with entrepreneurs to grow their businesses. And she does things like creating business strategy and long-term plans from her business Clarity from Chaos. She's a speaker, and she's been with SAPEX for a while, speaking for SAPEX as well as the procurement conference. In addition to that, she is also an executive coach, and she works on all different levels and also does career coaching. So that is Shanti. She is a lot for us, and she's going to tell us all about goals today. Shanti, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Wow, thank you, Lorato. That was quite the introduction. I'm not sure I'm going to live up to it, but thank you.
I trust that you will. I know everybody's excited to hear.
Great. I'm going to switch over to sharing screens so everyone can have a look at what I'm talking about. I just want to minimize that so I'm not in the way. So thank you, everybody, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about your business plan And connected to that is things like your business strategy, how to summarize it, as well as how to set goals. It's the beginning of a new year, or the last day of the first month of a new year. And I think sometimes it's always good to reflect on how we can improve our business plan and what we can do differently. And it's with this in mind that we put today's agenda together. So what will you learn about today? Today, you're going to learn about what is a business plan and why we need one. You're also going to learn some of the key questions that your business plan must answer. You're going to learn about SMART objectives and how to set them. And I'm going to take you through what I call a business strategy on a page, which is quite a useful document if you want to summarize what your goals are for the year. And lastly, we're going to talk a little bit around achieving your goals. I do encourage you all to open the chat, because as I go, I am going to ask each of you just to add your comments and to questions in the chat. That way, I don't just talk, I get to hear what you guys think. And with that, I'm going to start with the first question before I get there. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is, what is a business plan? A business plan is a formal document. So it's a written document that defines your business structure. Is your business a CC, a Pty Limited, a sole proprietorship, or a partnership? It also talks to your future objectives of your organization. What is it that you want to achieve in the short term and the long term? And it explains how you're going to do that through your strategy. So you take the organization through your strategy, and then you look at what is your product, what is your target market, and what are your financial projections. So these are just some of the things that are going to be covered in a business plan. But more important than that is, before you start writing this document, you need to be clear on why your organization needs a business plan. So I'd love it if you could go to the chat, and in the chat, just type in your answer to that question. Why do you think your organization needs a business plan? I'm waiting for some answers to come through, I hope.
I hope everybody's not shy to put in their comments and responses.
There's no right or wrong answers here. Perspective and direction, I like that. Thanks, Willem. To make it sustainable, Jenny, thank you. To focus and give structure to planning. Yes, thanks, Claire. Any other ideas? As a map for the business, I like that, Joseph. It becomes a map and a guide for your business. A foundation for the future. Thank you, Moyab. Lovely. Any others? Okay. One of the key reasons we want a business plan is it provides a map for the business, as Joseph has highlighted. But even more important is, when you require funding for your small business, other people want to know more about it. Other people want to know how it is that you are going to run this business. They want to know that they're putting their money in a place that is safe and secure, that they're not taking unnecessary risk. Because if you don't know the business owner, if you don't know the background, if you don't know the product, it's very hard to invest in a business. So one of the core reasons for writing a business plan is so that you can obtain funding, and also so you can reassure your shareholders, if you've managed to obtain them already, that you know where you're going, that you know what you're doing. And that is why we have a business plan. Okay. So now I'm going to just take you through some of the basic questions that business plan should answer. The first question is your business strategy. Your business plan clearly has to highlight, what are your strategic objectives? What do you want to achieve in the first year, the second year, and in the longer term? So you need to be able to articulate the objectives. This includes things like the mission and the vision of the business, as well as your high-level objectives. The second thing your business plan needs to answer is, who is your customer? And you need to be specific here. It can't just be women or children or small businesses, you need to be clear on who that customer is. It might be, for example, I recently worked with a client and her customer was active women who hike, trail run, and ride mountain bikes. That was her target market, and it made it very specific then when she started to do her communications and marketing strategy. So when you talk about your customer, be clear on who that person is. Excuse me. The next thing to be clear on is the product or service you offer. The biggest mistake that small businesses make is they try to be everything to everybody. They try to solve everybody's problems. They try to provide too many solutions. And then what happens is your attention is sort of split up into so many pieces that you actually don't deliver well on the things that you do deliver on. So it's important to be very clear on what your product or service is that you offer. And this is something that you must take time to think about, to come back to circle back again and again and again, and keep checking in. Have you got that clearly defined? The next thing that your business plan talks to is, how are you going to finance your business? And this one is a fun one, because this is the one where you probably are going to need the help of an accountant. And it's really important that when you do your financial plan, you don't just look at projected profit and loss. You have to look at your cash flow. In small business, cash is king. Without cash, your business will flop. There is nothing worse than reaching month end of a small business and suddenly you realize you may have made a profit, but you haven't collected your debtors yet. The money is not in the bank. And you are not able to pay salaries and wages of your people. So cash is so important in planning your business. You need to have a cash forecast. You need to be clear on which months you're going to need to borrow cash and which months you will be in the green in terms of having positive cash balances. Over and above that, you should have a projected financial plan in terms of profit and loss, as well as your balance sheet. But in a small business, if there's one thing you get right under finances, it's getting your cash flow right. And when you learn about inventory, I think there is an inventory lecture on one of those ones that Claire mentioned earlier. Inventory is a way that many businesses get caught in that cash flow challenge, because what happens is they buy inventory to stock their business, but then they don't have the cash until that inventory is sold or moved to customers. What other resources do you need to operate this business? So while you need money, there's other stuff that you're going to need. Inventory. You might need stock if you're starting a small shop. You might need raw materials if you're starting a small manufacturing business. You might need other types of inventory, depending on the type of business. You also might need people. How many staff members are you planning to hire? What is your monthly wage bill? Will you be paying them monthly or hourly? How will you structure that? Will they be full-time or part-time? Will they be commission-based if they're in sales, or will they earn a salary? These are all questions you need to think about, because they are going to impact your financial plan, and they are also going to impact your ability to do your business. Because if you don't have the resources in place, how on earth do you expect to execute the business plan? Okay. What is your go-to-market strategy? How do you intend to take this business to market? Where are you going to advertise? Where are you going to sell? How are you going to distribute your product? What are your different thinkings behind go-to-market? Because for different types of businesses, this will be different. If you're starting a small spaza shop, for example, you might be the only spaza shop in your area, and as soon as people hear via word of mouth, they will come to you. But if you're starting to market a new product that other people don't know about, You're going to have to educate your market. You're going to have to speak to your market. You're going to have to talk to your market, because the more you educate, the more you talk, the more you communicate, the better they will understand that your product meets their need. So your go-to-market strategy is really, really important. And if you are planning to distribute outside your immediate vicinity, you also need to think about your distribution plans and how you're going to move your products from point A to point B. Lastly, you need to worry about how you're going to I can never say this word, operationalize the plan. How are you going to take action? What are you going to do to make sure you actually achieve all the things that you have committed to do? These are all small components that go into your business plan and enable you to start thinking about it. So I'm curious, in the chat, what are some of the questions going through your heads right now when you think about a business plan? If you want to just type some questions in, anything that's going through your head right now, things that you might be thinking about of your own business or businesses you've seen, what questions have you got? Not seeing too much typing coming through. Does that mean it's all very clear and you're ready to go off and write your business plan? Or does it mean that you're typing slower than I'm reading?
Maybe they're typing slower than you're reading, Shanti, but I think it's very interesting to, understand that there's a difference between a business strategy and a go-to-market strategy, and to be able to identify both of them. So that's one of the questions that are going through my head as a small business owner. Have I defined the two?
Interesting. And I think that's important, because your business strategy is your overarching business strategy from end to end. Whereas your go-to-market is how are you going to reach your customer? What needs to be done there? No, very interesting. Okay, I don't see any questions coming through on the chat, so I'm going to move to the next slide. And this one I'd like you to think about for a little bit. What is your most important business goal for 2022? So if you think about your small business or the business you would like to start, what is your goal for 2022? And I'm happy if you either come off mic if you prefer, or type it into the chat, whichever option works for you. What's the goal of your small business? Okay. To penetrate the market.
Responses, yeah.
There we go. So to penetrate the market in order to increase our user base. Lovely, Andrea. Willem, stability and growth. Any others?
I think stability would be an important one for a lot of people, seeing where we come from in the past 2 years.
Be profitable by the end of 2022. Refocus, re-strategize, and progress. So some interesting ones. And Narata, you're right, that stability one's so important, because I think what often happens in a small business is you're growing so fast, you don't stop and stabilize before the next step of growth. You just keep growing. And that is so key. Jack, did you want to say something?
Okay, I think Jack had unmuted himself by mistake. He's back on mute.
Okay. So when it comes to business objectives, I think it's really important to remember, if you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. And I absolutely love that. Oh, we've got some comments coming in the chat again.
Yeah.
To create a firm market and expand my market share and create a diversified customer base. To satisfy my customers and make some money in the process. To align our goals to our strategies. I love that. Thank you, Morgan. Okay, so when you're taking those goals, one of the things to remember is if you don't have a goal, if you don't have an objective, you're not going to get anywhere. And sometimes the two don't come in the right order. And you need to have a goal because that enables you to put your energy and effort behind it. So when we look at goals, there's a few things that you need. The first one is it must be specific. So for example, if I'm talking market penetration, which markets am I wanting to penetrate? And what market share am I looking at? It must be measurable. So every goal needs to be measurable. You need to know if you've achieved it. So a good example of this is I actually run an NPO. And one of our goals is to sterilize 225 dogs by the year 2025. So it's specific. We're very clear. We've got a target. It's 2,025 dogs. It's measurable. We can measure it. It's achievable. If I keep plugging away at it, I've got a few more years to get there. It has responsibility. So we have a team of people working towards that plan. But most importantly, it's time bound. There is a date that it ends at, 2025. And when it comes to goals, it's really, really important that we make sure these goals are very smart. So for example, diversify. See, Cobus has added some comments here. Diversifying in terms of general product, public, small business, and corporate customers. And the question I would ask you, Cobus, is how big is that? How many more are you wanting to add into? Is it about adding new groups to your business? Is it about adding a greater percentage of some of those groups? And these are the things we need to think about when we look at our goals. If I go to Archie, Archie talks about satisfying his customers and making money in the process. How are you going to know if your customers are satisfied? What is the measurable that you've got out there to check customer satisfaction? And obviously you've got a measure for making money. That's called profit. So that's good. Alternatively, it could be cash in the bank. I see Cobus has got, yeah, okay. So Cobus has been building his comments from the start in terms of a firm market and expanding market share. And as you listen to me talk, I'm hoping some thoughts are going through your minds about ways of measuring and tracking these. We have a new comment. Grow our sales by 20 to 30%. Morgan, that's fantastic. Now, the most important part there is to know what are your current sales and what does 20% and what does 30% look like. And these are the things we need to start thinking, because often when we set goals, we set vague goals. I want to start a business, or I want to sell flour, or I'm going to bake cakes. But we don't put specific, measurable, achievable, responsible, and time-bound goals to that. We're not clear on how much we want to generate, how much we want to target in that business. And that is why this part of the conversation is so, so important.
Shanti, can I ask you a question? So using Morgan's goal, which is to grow sales by 20 to 30%, if you were to use the SMART objective framework, how would you frame this objective?
Okay, so to grow our sales by 20 to 30% is fairly specific if we know the base. It's measurable because we've said 20 to 30%. Morgan would need to show us what his numbers look like, and we'd have to have a conversation around achievable. So for example, if for the last 5 years, Morgan's grown his sales only by 3 to 4%, and this year he's expecting 20 to 30%, it might be unrealistic. But if in the last 5 years, he's grown his sales by 40%, it might be realistic and achievable. So that's quite important. In terms of responsible, we would need to make sure that the goal is owned by someone in the organization who's going to drive that goal and make it happen. And in terms of time bound, it would need to have a deadline. So is it per quarter? Is it for the year? Or is it in 3 years' time? Okay. And you'll see Cobus is playing with this idea nicely. Assist my mother company to expand from 11 million liters of alkaline to 50 million liters of alkaline in the next 3 to 5 years. Love it.
Is it on the head?
With each edition. Fantastic. Hey? Okay, so moving on. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the strategy on a page. And the reason I introduced this concept is often when you look at a business plan, it can be a 20, 30, 40, 50-page document. But when you want to have a quick conversation with someone where you just want to highlight for them in one summary what it is your organization is about, it's far easier if you can summarize everything onto a page. And we even use this within our own business to make sure our objectives are set quarterly using this type of format. So the first thing is, what problem will we solve? What is our purpose? And this is important to understand. And the vision is your ambition, whereas the mission is our purpose. So your ambition might be to grow the market in alkaline products, whereas your mission or your purpose is what it is you're trying to achieve with those products. Are you trying to sell them to big pharmaceuticals? Are you selling them to agricultural? Are you selling them to the end user? Who's going to use it? How are you going to do it? What is your purpose in that? So when you look at a strategy on a page, it's really important that you're clear on your purpose. The second part of what you're going to look at is the customer. Who wants us to solve this problem? And there might be more than one customer. And it's quite important here that you be specific about who the different customers are. So for example, in a SAPEX context, we've got a number of different customers. We've got customers who are individual private people who practice supply chain. We have customers who are small business owners, but aren't in the bigger corporates. We have corporates who are big companies with a whole bunch of people who need to understand supply chain. And we have customers in terms of the various seaters who look at us in terms of supplying education solutions. So we've got a range of customers. What problem will we solve? Well, we're going to highlight who are the people that, we will provide education and skills to supply chain practitioners around Africa. The solution. This is also important. How am I going to solve my problem? What am I going to do to meet all these different customer needs? Well, I might offer, for example, education and training to teach people skills. I might offer various webinars and conferences to teach people skills. I might offer a forum where people can tap in and ask questions of experts, coaches, and mentors. And so it might go. So when you're looking at your solution, you need to be clear on what it is you're doing to solve the problem that you have set out to solve. And then you need to make sure you're measuring your success, because it's no good having all these ambitions if you are not measuring how successful you are going to be. A KPI, for those who don't know, is a key performance indicator. And often you're going to have more than one. It might be something like profit, sales, customer service. If you go back to the conversation around goals, some of those KPIs that would come out are sales. So Quibus has got a sales target or KPI. Morgan had a sales target. Quibus also had a diversification target, which you needed to measure. Customer satisfaction, profits coming through, market share, profit. And these are some of the things that we would need to identify, but we need to be specific here again, because if we aren't specific, we won't achieve what we said we were going to achieve in the beginning. And that takes us back to this. If you aim at nothing, you will hit it every time. So whatever you're doing in terms of your business plan and your business strategy, it is really, really, really important that you make sure you have measurable, achievable targets. I'm going to pause here and see if there's any questions before I move to the next bit. Is there anyone who wants to come off mic and ask a specific question or put their hand up? Nope.
We don't seem to have anybody at the moment, Shanti.
Okay.
But I do urge everybody, I'm sure they're thinking about it a lot, so I do urge them to come through with questions. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Okay. So now the question is, you've got this business plan. Your business plan says what your business strategy is. It says who your customer is. It tells us your product. It talks about your financial plan. It talks about your resources. And it goes through all the different pieces of the puzzle. How do you make sure that you succeed? What do you need to do to make sure you are successful in delivering this business plan? Any thoughts? You can type them, or you can come off mute and answer questions and give your suggestions. No?
Hi, Kit. Very quiet today.
Very quiet.
Oh, yeah, we do. We've got Willem, and he is talking about tracking the goals, and Morgan talks about employing the right staff.
Yeah, I like that. Tracking the goals, making sure you're tracking to target. Employing the right staff is a key part, because if the people can't do what you need them to do, nothing's going to happen.
Yep.
Any other suggestions?
Yes, it's Andrea's. So essentially, if you also have quite a broad potential customer base, I would say it's vital to do a lot of market research to prioritize which type of customers you will go to see first to introduce them to your product.
Fantastic. So market research, understanding the customer, and then focusing your attention. Excellent. Quibus has said, measure your success on a regular basis, like net profits. Yes. Expand marketing on social media. Yes, that's something I think all of us are learning how to do, and it's a new thing.
And I love how he says we need to move with the times.
Exactly. We need to be more modern. And that's where your things like data analytics and Power BI come in. Because if you go back up to the comment earlier about tracking the goals that Willem put up there, what you're wanting to do is you actually want to track them visually, so you can see how you're doing and whether you are achieving them. Because if you don't track your performance, what will happen at the end of the year is you'll open that lovely business plan you wrote that's all beautifully published and polished, and you'll have a look at it and you wouldn't have achieved anything. So it's really, really important that you track your progress to your plan. So the secret to being a small business owner is that you will dream big. You've got great big ideas, all of you out there, of what you want to achieve. But you then need to set goals that are realistic, specific, measurable, achievable, responsible, and time-bound. With those kind of goals, you can then take action. And remember, a dream will always be a dream if you do not take action. A plan will always be a plan if you do not take action. So it's really important that that last post-it happens.
We've got Quibus on the comments, and he is saying that there's no room for failure. Try your best to do everything right the first time, but do learn from mistakes. And he's got this word, these two words that I love: zero tolerance for accepting failure. And Ukolela says that ensuring your expenses are kept lowest to maximize profits. I would assume that would be, his goal for 2020, his or her goal for 2022.
Fantastic. So I think that's awesome. There's a couple of gems in there. Learning from your mistakes. One of the things you are going to experience as a small business owner is that you are going to make mistakes. Things are going to go wrong. And you've got two choices. You can either give up and go home, or you can reflect, you can learn, and you can do better the next time. So you've got choices, and learning from mistakes is a critical success factor of an entrepreneur. Olela, ensuring your expenses are kept low, especially as you start starting out, is also critical. The number of people who think, okay, now I'm starting my own business, I need an office, I need premises, I need A and I need B. I think one of the biggest lessons COVID has taught us, and even the big corporates, is we don't need to all have an office. We can all work from home. We don't have to have a fancy office space for clients to see us. It's not necessary. We can hire an office for an hour somewhere out there. So I think it's really, really important as you are starting out in your business to remember, keep your costs to a minimum. And one of the things you will see is fixed cost versus variable cost. Fixed costs, you're obligated to pay every single month, whereas variable costs will change depending on how your business is running. So a good example of this is recently we hired an administrator to help with our MPO, but we don't have a regular enough income to cover a fixed salary. So what we did instead is we've hired a part-time administrator who will invoice us per hour for the work completed. That way, if we don't have money in a particular month, we don't ask her to do work in a particular month. But if we have money in a particular month and there's a lot of work to be done, we can ask her to do that work. So I think it's quite important that as you're starting your business and you're starting these things out, that you take cognizance of all the different factors that you're setting yourself up to success and not to failure. So I think the final question of the day is, what was your greatest insight today? What is it that you've learned as an individual today in this process? So Lorata shared hers earlier around business strategy versus go-to-market strategy and the differences. I'm curious if anyone else learned anything specific.
I think there were a lot of gems that were thrown, so I'm sure there's a lot that people would have found as their aha moments as we go in.
Yes, Willem,
That is
structure really helps with business plans. And that's one of the things, I mean, Lorata spoke about VUCA, worlds and chaos and clarity. That's where my business came from. Quibus, you have enough time. Stop wasting time and start doing with an awful lot of maths in there.
There is
a
lot.
The hard way. It's true though, Quibus. Often the biggest mistake we make is to procrastinate and delay rather than just to get on with it.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other
I love how we say start doing. You
Yes.
know, like start doing. So that is really important and keys into the strategy, because once you've got your strategy, you can start doing. I mean, you've had those posters where we dream big, we set our goals, and we take action.
And Andrea here, I love it. Goals need to be more specific, measurable, focused, and based on a timeline. We always need a target to focus on. Yes. Without a target, we lose sight of where we're going.
Yep.
The importance of cascading a big goal into smaller measurable units. Yes, that's great, Kalela.
Yeah. That's very important too, because while we dream big, we dream the big, hairy, audacious goal, but we never get to actually doing it. And when you break it down, like you said, Shanti, then we're able to have those smart objectives and lay it down.
Fantastic. Okay. So yes, I think thanks guys for your listening.
We've got a comment from Mayo B.
Learned how to strategize. Lovely. So those of you who are interested in learning more, my contact details are up there. Otherwise, I know Claire and Cindy, who you registered you for the workshop, are also available to help you. But if there's anyone who's got any questions, we have got time for questions. And I know Lorata is going to facilitate that conversation. So I'm going to stop sharing.
Shanta, I would say keep it on for a little while, so that people can just grab your details so they know where to get hold of you from. And if there are any questions, we are here to listen. I mean, we have got so many tidbits that were coming out from Shanti, and I'm sure there's quite a few that need, some clarification or more information. So please don't be afraid to ask. Do pop it down the question, and because we've got time, you can unmute yourself and just verbalize your question, and let Shanti take it from there for you. So anybody and everybody, please feel free. We've got Archie, Archie who says time saved in a non-bottleneck is an illusion.
I love that, Archie. That's so true. So I think for those of you who don't understand the comment,
Please break it down
a
for us,
bottleneck
Shanti.
is where your business is constricted and where flow is almost stopped. So if you think about a pipe with a blockage in it, and you can fix both sides of the blockage, but if you don't fix the blockage, nothing's going to change. So you can increase flow on either side, but where the blockage or bottleneck is, if it's not addressed, you'll continue to make the same mistake.
Wow.
Thank you for that feedback, Andrea. Fantastic, Quibus. I'm glad it was useful. We are running these webinars going forward every month for those of you who are interested. Claire had to jump off for a family emergency, but if you are interested, the SAPIX SMM or Small Business Hub is here to help you with your business and to help you get started. So guys, please do contact and consider joining us. I know I've benefited hugely from my SAPIX membership. It hasn't been wasted at all. But yeah, so Quibus, there we are. We're
Attest
here
to
to
that.
help you.
And it is on the SAPIX website, so that would be www.sapix.org, and there is a specific page for the Small Business Hub. You are more than welcome. In fact, I implore you to do it because you will get so much from it. It's not just about supply chain. We cover so much more. So please do go and join us. It is very beneficial. And the lineup of speakers for this year is insane. From the snippet that I've seen, there is going to be such an explosive lineup of speakers. And from what we received from today, I mean, you already know where we're going the rest of the year. So please do join us.
So
And
thanks,
I
guys.
think, don't think we've got any more questions. I think in that case, then we'll just have to say thank you very much, Shanti. I mean, for me, myself, as a business woman entrepreneur, in one page, I think one takeaway for me is that strategy in a page. And I think all small business owners should just have that one page and carry it around everywhere you go. Thank you for sharing all these tidbits with us. They're very useful and very insightful. Thank you for your time. Thank you everybody for joining us. And again, Shanti's details were displayed. If you need to get hold of her, you know where to get her. And we encourage you to please go onto the SAPIX website, do register for the Small Business Hub and see how much potential you can withdraw from yourself. So thank you everybody for joining us. Have a great afternoon and we can't wait to see you for the next webinar.
Thank you, Lorato. Thank you so much.
Thank you.